right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking about real music in real time for real people just like you and just like me. I was inspired talking to my friend Darren yesterday as he was telling me off camera about a couple videos that I did when I basically say there's a war on a certain band because they don't get any airplay anymore. I've never seen anything like the war on Eric Clapton's 1980s output. Eric Clapton was on fire in the 1980s as far as rock radio airplay, and I have a book here, by the way, to prove it. This is called Rock Tracks. It's kind of sort of a hard book to find, but I ordered it a long time ago, lost the copy I had, and I think I reordered it a few months ago. And, you know, it's kind of like my Bible when it comes to rock radio airplay, especially in the 1980s. And then you can see, you know, the definite trends where everybody sort of falls off the wagon in the early 1990s. It's actually kind of scary when you go through it all. But Eric Clapton actually had the first #1 song on this chart. The chart started in 1981, and it was a response basically to all of those FM rock stations that weren't top 40 oriented. They were playing album cuts and so forth, and you know, they would pick songs out, and these are stations from, you know, the 1970s that they had their own playlists, and it was separate from the stuff that was happening over on top 40 or any other chart for that matter. Eric Clapton had the first #1 song of this chart, and it's called I Can't Stand It. When's the last time you heard that song anywhere on the radio? It's really depressing that this format had nowhere to... It's like me with certain music and politics. You have nowhere to go. Like you're given so many bad choices that you don't... You know what I'm saying? So you don't have an alternative but to listen to, you know, the 5 Eric Clapton songs that they've picked, and it's stuff from Slow Hand, or, you know, it's like Lay Down Sally or whatever, and you're like, okay, you know, I love Tears in Heaven, but, you know, the focus testing needs to stop. And you see, the problem with these mainstream rock charts is they weren't Billboard Top 40 charts. And these radio programmers today, what they do is they go back and they say, oh, this was a big song because it was on the charts, and then they narrow it down to even a smaller number of songs by doing the focus testing. Let's continue on. Now, Clapton came out with this album, Behind the Sun, and I was there. This thing was a monster record, and it was loaded with great album-oriented rock songs, some of which don't even get on this chart here that I know were played. There's a song on here called Tangled in Blue, which is just amazing. Just an amazing track from this record. But the song that I'm focused on here is a tune called She's Waiting. She's Waiting was all over the radio, as was Forever Man. Don't hear him. This is Eric Clapton. This is rock royalty. Next, August. I mean, if Behind the Sun wasn't big enough, August became an even bigger sort of step-off point for Clapton with a whole bunch of tracks on the radio. I'm trying to find where that spot is here. Tearing Us Apart, Miss You, Run, and this one here, It's in the Way That You Use It, which is also in the movie The Color of Money with Tom Cruise. So that certainly helped the song do really well. I even kind of think it might have been a little top 40 for a time. I never hear it. I mean, it's crazy. Then we get to this album. This was like the pinnacle for me for Eric Clapton. And yeah, he had some other great moments after this, but really, Journeyman was the album that you could play from start to finish. If you enjoyed rock or blues, this thing was just loaded. It was done in just the perfect manner. The production, sort of the 80s counterpoint to all of Clapton's great blues riffs, and it was just incredible. The song I'm talking about is Pretending. By the way, Clapton was hanging out with like Nathan East at the time, Greg Fillinganes, Phil Collins was poking around. I mean, in his usual stable of amazing musicians. And this thing, Pretending, Bad Love, was just an amazing song. And nobody plays this stuff anymore. It's not on American radio at all. Rock stations, the ones that are called active rock stations, they don't play Eric Clapton. He doesn't meet their image requirements. You know, it's just bizarre. And it's hard to understand. There is no place for people to go to hear this music on the radio. Yes, build your own playlist. Yes, you know, go to Spotify. For those of you on Patreon, you can check out my new little radio station that I created, which is still kind of a work in progress, and I don't know if it's going to continue, but it is over at Live 365. It's called RMO Radio. I haven't talked about it too much because it's kind of goofy, and you know, it's expensive to actually run it. So I would need a big increase in patronage in order to keep that radio station afloat. But one of the things that I've done over there is I've put in a lot of these tracks that you won't hear anywhere else, and that's my goal. My goal is not to play Don't Stop Believin' every 15 minutes. You know, I'd rather play Mother, Father. I'd rather play Still They Ride. You know, there are songs that just don't get the attention that they deserve. And one of the things that I do on this channel is I also promote newer melodic rock groups that aren't getting added to any playlists anywhere. And they never had the opportunity. At least Eric Clapton, for a time, enjoyed mainstream radio airplay with this music. But where did the song I Can't Stand It go? First #1 ever mainstream rock chart song. And you can't hear it. It's nowhere to be heard. So anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. And yes, Patreon for $1 a month. And that's where you can find the link to my little radio venture, which again, it's very little and insignificant. But if you wanted to check it out, there's a place to do it. So again, thanks for watching. See you soon.